Well, the people have spoken. And what the people said is that the next video should be me ranking the sinners. Which, now that I look at the list again, I think it's too obvious that this means sinner tier list, or just something involving a tier list in general. But, nevertheless, today I'm going to be ranking all the sinners and their respective identities up to the most recent one that currently exists. The way this series will be structured, because it is a series, it's not one video, will be I'll do it by season, so that when a new season comes out I can just upload one for that season instead of having to have this video be outdated at one point. But Dan, what is this list based on? I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad you're in my office, without knocking. But regardless of that, sit down and grab a cup of coffee, which I have in my office, because you're going to be here for a while. I'll be ranking them based on 3 very important factors: how fun they are to use, their identity story, and just how much I like them. May I please remind you that while you are in my office, this tier list is objective, and I advise you to treat it as such. Alright, so for the base identities, I'll be ranking them based on how fun they are to use, because I can't force myself to like one sinner more than the other.
이상이라고. 소개는 이상이요.
Base Yi-Sang attacks are very much based around the sinking status effect and inflicting said status effect on enemies. His first and second skill inflicts sinking on the target, and his third inflicts fragile if the target's SP is below 0. And if updated to level 4, its first 2 coins will also inflict sinking regardless of if the target's SP is lower than 0. I don't know why, but I just never really found them fun to use. Out of all the Yi-Sang identities, I feel like all of them are more fun than base Yi-Sang. And his in-game and menu voice lines are boring. Look, I'm sorry that whenever I launch the game, I don't like pondering deep philosophical queries and would much rather hear about how long Faust hasn't seen the sun in. I'm putting him in C tier for sinking.
파우스트예요. 당신이 인생에서 한 번 마주칠까 말까 하는 천재죠.
I may be a bit biased for this one because I like Faust, but I genuinely did use her base identity for a very long time. The Paralyze and Offense level down coins were great, and she is the only one out of the base sinners who can inflict Paralyze. Her passive is also pretty fun, but not that useful when you think about it. Like only 10% extra damage, which, I get it, it's a base identity, so it can't be too overpowered. Uptying her to level 4 only increases the base damage of her skill by 1, which seems not worth it in the slightest. Her menu voice lines are good though. I like the one where she tells you to go outside.
Beach volleyball!
Life is full of Don Quixote, as my profile quote says. Another sinner that I'm biased towards because I love Don Quixote. As much as we all love Don, I found it kinda hard to use her third skill, which only activates at 10 speed. It feels like you have to have her in conjunction with another sinner, or maybe combined with the use of some ego gift, I guess, in the mirror dungeon. And yet, as I'm writing this, I just heard her idle line. And I don't think I need to say much more. She is going in S tier just for that line.
요슈, 요로슈쿠.
Base Ryoshu is probably one of the best sinners IMO. She's sort of a LRR type character, focusing on dealing damage but also taking damage, which seems like it would EAM RP. Her passive and support are also really good, but her lines for some reason don't have her IA, like none of the ones she says in game, but except for her death wail, contain an abbreviation. But regardless of all of that, SGIST.
별별 하트 하트 하트.
Merso.
폭로라고 한답니다. 잘해보자고요, 우리.
I don't really know where to put him, because on one hand, I never really used him, but on the other hand, I don't dislike the base Hongwu identity. The way you're supposed to play him is to minimize damage taken as to maximize the damage he outputs because of his second and third skill. Which, I mean, that's interesting, but I just have no opinions on this identity. His lines are fun, but they're not particularly memorable. I'm sorry, Hongwu. C tier, just smack dab in the middle.
히스클리프, 사람 박살내는 건 내 전문이지. 물론 내가 내킬 때만.
Base Heathcliff is similar to Mirso, as they both have tremor-focused skills, but where they differ is that Heath is more focused on attacking than defending. This is sort of on topic, but does anyone else get the feeling that they made Heathcliff a lot dumber? Like, you look at his identity dialogue, which was present at the start of the game, at the launch of the game, and he doesn't have the signature Heathcliff charm he has by being dumb. I don't know, that's probably just me.
저를 이스마일이라고 불러주세요.
Listen, I know she's the figurehead of the game, sort of. I know people are gonna hate me for this, and I know who killed Kennedy. But you have to agree with me that her base identity is not that good compared to the others. Maybe I'm just not a single coin Chad, who knows. I do like her passives though. Listen, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm not an Ishmael. I gotta put her in B.
안녕, 로자야.
I love Bleed!
싱클레어예요. 에밀 싱클레어.
Well, much like Hongwu, I don't really know where to put Sinclair. I do like him, but again, there are better identities. His playstyle isn't really built around a status effect like some of the other sinners, but it does seem like you have to focus on winning clashes to maximize damage dealt. His lines are a little lackluster, but again, biased sinner because Damien is one of my favorite books. I'll leave you in B, Sinclair. B for Between Two Worlds. It would have been A for Abraxas, but I'm sorry, you're just kind of okay.
오티스입니다. 제 이름을 기억해 주십시오, 관리자님.
I know I said earlier I'm not a fan of single coin attacks, but her third skill is pretty good. It feels satisfying to use, what can I say? Her level 4 uptie is not that useful though. She's also just kind of silly. B tier.
그래 고르다. 뭐 자고 있을 때 빼고는 편하게 부르라고.
The last of the base identities. Gregor is very focused on stacking Rupture on enemies, and I like Rupture. I genuinely used him for a lot of the game, the base identity, that is. He's also the only base sinner who has healing support and passives, and while he doesn't heal for much, it's still useful to have. As an added bonus, I do love his lines. And I mean, I went to a Halloween party as him, so I'm kind of biased because, well, he's literally me. I was gonna put him in A tier to be fair, but then I realized this is my list. I don't need to be fair. He goes in S. That about covers... Well, that about covers? No, that covers all the base identities. Well, the next video is going to be out Season 1, so... Yeah, I hope the wait time was worth it. The 6-month wait time.